Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I got an interesting little video I'm going to make for you today. Come off a Facebook post that I just did, and what? Excuse me. What I'm talking about here, as you can see right here, at 11 o'clock each night of the whole show, Angie would put me on hold while she went to get her pill. They were drugging the women there at the whole show parties, and I was talking to her on the phone, and she had a Bluetooth headset. And then this was going on each night of the whole show because the show lasts all week. They were systematically drugging the women there. And, and this is something that law enforcement, legitimate law enforcement, the ones that don't lie and steal and lie and destroy the lives of citizens who report crime to them, the good police, should investigate. We find out who is supplying them drugs, who was drugging them women, and because I believe that the girl that was murdered, it was because she was overdosed, didn't want to prostitute, according to Angie. So anyway, I'm going to just jump in here, short reading. I said this pill that Angie and the other women at the oil show party were required to take would make her groggy, and she would fall asleep not too long after this. Okay, we'd get off the phone around 12 o'clock. The phone records will show that. I later told the ex-wife about this, and she told me it was an antidepressant pill, and it was obvious how she knew that. Obviously, she'd been there, or, it is how she'd know. The young girl who Angie said didn't want to prostitute didn't wake up, and it's my understanding they overdosed her. Okay. So that's why it's important to track down, the pharmacists, the doctors, whoever that were involved in systematically drugging these women in this forced prostitution for these oil show parties. They murdered that little girl because she didn't want to prostitute. I tried to get Angie to report this murder to the police, but she was afraid and told me that high-level police were also at those parties. It makes sense that one of those was the late Sheriff Gary Painter, as I was told by Sheriff Candidate Joe Lozana that these underground homes, which were said to have been put in by the Bushes, was his hideout on a recorded phone call. And that was the President Bushes. They're from Midland, Texas, right? George H.W. Bush and George Bush. With multiple people documented saying that tunnels and underground homes are here near my home, and Google Maps, which seems to show one of those in my backyard, then it shouldn't be hard to find and expose them. This must be done as we have the remains of an unidentified girl that was found outside of Midland in 2013, who was obviously the same girl that Angie told me about being murdered at the 2010 oil show party that was 5 minutes drive from my house. Okay. And I put some links in there for some videos. Sheriff Painter's hideout, that one went viral. That's why I was secretly recording Sheriff Candidate Joe Lozana during the election for sheriff, and he stopped me there, buddy. That was Painter's hideout, and I had the recorder going. He didn't know that. That's huge news. Okay, Bush safe houses in Midland, Texas. That's a new video, and that has actually new evidence in there, or that I just posted in the public. The woman that told me she worked on these underground homes, it was called Safe Houses, finished 1987, put in by the Bushes. They had a budget of $7.35 million. She named the company that she worked for in that video right there. Okay, and once again, the Bushes are from Midland and involved in the oil business. 2010 oil show party murder, and that's the story of the young girl being murdered at the oil show party in 2010 that didn't want to prostitute and didn't wake up. Okay, here I found this online right here from the Midland County Sheriff's Department, and what it is a picture of Sheriff Painter here, the late Sheriff Painter, with George Bush, okay, with President George Bush there, okay, with best wishes. And that's kind of interesting there because it looks like these underground homes where they were having the oil show parties was put in by the Bushes years ago. Actually, his dad was vice president at the time when it was said that they were completed in 1987. Okay, and so I want to talk about Painter. This is where I was talking about earlier about the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay, so we'll look at Sheriff Painter. He's truly famous, right? I mean, he's locally famous. He was one of the longest serving sheriffs in the state of Texas, which is a big deal if you're from Texas, right? And I'm just looking at his obituary here, 72. Some people have told me that that they found him in his backyard at like 2 o'clock at night, and there was suspicion that something fishy went on when Sheriff Painter died, and maybe that's true. I don't know that. But here, looking at the obituary, he served in Vietnam. He earned the National Defense Service Medal, Vietnam Campaign Medal, the Vietnam Service Ribbon with 6 devices, the Presidential Unit Commendation, and the Vietnam Cross of Gallantry. Okay, and so then he joined the DPS in 1970. He was down in Culberson County, Texas, at the Sheriff's Office, and Presidio County Sheriff's Office, and that is down in South Texas, right next to the border, okay, which would be very convenient if you're a dirty cop involved in organized crime, drug trafficking, etc. Not saying that's the case. I'm just saying he worked for the Midland Police Department, and then ultimately the Midland Sheriff's Office in 1982. Okay, and then 85 he ran for sheriff, and he would never look back. He was sheriff for 34 years in his 9th term. He was also a master mason. Okay, and so that he's a hero. That's what I said. This is Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Because what's so amazing is a sheriff candidate, Joe Lozana, said these underground homes where it's believed the Muleshow parties were going on, and where that young girl was murdered, was his hideout, that the sheriff knew about it. And I had sent Sheriff Painter 27 fact-filled emails that he ignored, which seems to be common about these crimes here. My voice is giving out. Sorry about that. Several people told me that Sheriff Painter was involved in drug trafficking. It seems like there was one story of a trailer full of marijuana found outside of his home one time, but I don't have proof of that. I have had several people tell me that. This is a real-life Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, okay? And I'm going to show you a print screen I took one day. I just thought it was interesting. This guy, Rusty Fowler, he says, I remember stories how the sheriff got caught with 2.5 tons of cocaine one time and 10 bales of weed another time, and never no charges filed on him. Instead, they gave him several million to upgrade his crime ring. And so that was just one of the stories. And in that way, Buddy's not saying Buddy said. I have a print screen that be verified that that was said. And I have multiple people that had told me that they believe Painter was involved in drug trafficking and organized crime. When I took the screenshot, I wondered how she would know about his link. And this is another one I got off there. Gary Painter, you're about as crooked as your 1-inch stink you'd be carrying around. And once again, I wondered, now how would she know something that personal, and maybe Painter was in these underground homes and parties, sex parties, etc. This right here. Okay, I tried to get Angie to report this murder to the police, but she was afraid and told me that high-level police were also at those parties. It makes sense that one of those was the late Sheriff Gary Painter, as I was told by Sheriff Candidate Joe Lozana that these underground homes were said to have been put in by the Bushes was his hideout on a recorded phone call. And so I'll just play a little bit of this.
And I thought, I wanted to reach out to you. I don't know if did your son pass on that information?
That's all I found out about you.
Okay. I secretly recorded a woman on the phone who told me there were 4 3-bedroom underground homes that are 25 foot deep, and each of them cost over $1 million. She told me they were having pedophile parties in these underground homes. This is posted to my YouTube channel, that phone call. Another woman told me that she worked on the underground project, which was finished in 1987 while Bush was vice president. The Bushes are from Midland and were in the oil field business. She said the total project cost was $7.35 million. I have a screenshot of her telling me this. A guy named Ricky Ronaldo tells me that he used to live in my home, and him and his brother used to go in the tunnels under it. I have a screenshot of him saying this. A woman named Rhonda Denman Rogers tells me that the underground facility is a half block away, and I also have a screenshot of this statement. She didn't say it was 1.5 blocks, so she knew exactly where it was at.
Buddy,
Yeah.
buddy, that was Painter's hideout thing. Okay? And the hell.
That was Painter's hideout thing. That's what Joe Lozano said. Remember, this guy was running for sheriff. We had an election for Midland sheriff because Painter had died the year before. And so this was during an election. You got a sheriff candidate secretly recording this kind of information, and our press hid this from the public. It was like, that's what they do here. They hide and they deceive and they trick the public, and they don't let the public to see the truth or the facts or the evidence of the crimes going on here. That's why all this can go on and continue to go on, is because of the press. Okay. They're an active party and to helping cover up these crimes and murders as far as I'm concerned. During the week of the 2010 oil show, Angie would leave my home and be at the party in 5 minutes. I believe that she was parking in the Home Depot parking lot, going underground somewhere over there, and then coming back to my home via a tunnel that can be seen on Google Maps. It looks like one of the 4 underground homes that multiple people have told me about is in my backyard based on Google Maps. Okay, this Google Earth picture is time stamped 6 months before I'm ambushed and shot. Ambushed and shot by somebody under my home with my phone lines cut. Premeditated, cold-blooded murder's what it was. I mean, they loaded their guns to my home, and actually the person that shot me, I didn't even know they were there. They were in no danger whatsoever. They could have left out the same tunnel they come in and gone in somebody else's home and murdered somebody else, but they chose to stay and try to murder me in my home. That's a fact. That's all there is to it. Okay. I want to show you here Google Maps. Here's my home, and I was ambushed and shot over here, and I ended up crawling out my front door. Caught. Okay, in the backyard, it looks like one of the 4 underground homes is right here. Okay, here's an alley. Here's a wall separates Home Depot from the residential and the commercial. This is the back of Home Depot. There's this secluded truck unloading lane, and this is the Home Depot store. And right here, you can see real clearly where the ground was cut. Okay, and you project that out, it goes directly to my house. Okay, so I believe Angie was leaving my house and she's parked in front of Home Depot, going underground, come where, and all the people at the parties were coming in this tunnel right here. Okay, and then one of the 4 underground homes is right here. So that's where they were drugging the women, and that's where they murdered that little girl at in 2010. Let's don't forget the previous owner of my home died the week before the 2008 oil show started. So do you think that underground home in the backyard had something to do with it? Of course it did. You know, the people that are having the oil show parties murdered Mike Lawhon. Okay, so I didn't show you the rest of that, but we can get that later here. In the backyard of the neighbors, a suspected tunnel entrance now removed. I wanted to point that out. So on July 2nd, 2019, okay, and this is 7 years after the murder attempt, okay, I showed Homeland Security, and I contacted Homeland because they're supposed to take care of human trafficking, right? I didn't know that they were helping human traffickers. You know, that's what I found out, that they don't try to stop it. They try to help the people that are forcing little girls to prostitute and murdering them. You know, that's what I learned. At least our Home Depot here in Midland is. That's what they're doing. On July 2nd, 2019, I showed Homeland Security where I believe the tunnel was located behind the Home Depot store that was used for the underground oil show parties, and 2 weeks later the ground was dug up and concrete was poured there, which was made into a viral video. Okay, I got a video of concrete coming out of the truck 2 weeks after I was back there with DHS. 2 weeks after that viral video, U.S. Congressman Mike Conway announces his retirement. Come to find out his brother-in-law used to live across the street. You think that's related? You better believe it is. Okay. And then 3 months later, the Secretary of Homeland, Kevin McClellan, resigns. 6 days after that, Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry, resigns. Rick Perry was governor of Texas when these oil show parties were going on. Trump's the one that made him the Secretary of Energy. And so you had 2 of them secretaries that resigned in 1 week. Why? Because they got caught pouring concrete to cover up a capital attempted murder or a capital murder of a little girl. You know, that's what happened. Because I was showing Homeland, look right here, I believe they murdered a little girl right here, and here's the tunnel, and then they went in here and poured concrete. That's what I'm saying. I'm so disappointed in DHS and Homeland, and somebody should go to prison for trying to cover up the murder of that little girl right there, because that's what they did. They got caught. Multiple people are documented saying the underground homes and tunnels are here, and Google Maps is showing a large building in my backyard that can't be seen from above ground. Obviously, this is one of them, and maybe where that young girl was murdered at 2010. And what I'm showing here, this is in my backyard. I showed you where I believe one of the underground homes is. That's because if you go to Google Maps, maps.google.com, on your phone or anywhere, and you just look up my address at 3802 Fair Circle, Midland, Texas, and in my backyard, there's this huge building or bunker, okay, in my backyard. Here's where I'm ambushed and shot, okay? But you switch over to the satellite screen, and it's not there. Okay, and never been there. Okay, so here's a huge building that's there that can't be seen from above ground. I believe it's there. It's one of them 4 underground homes, 3-bedroom, cost over $1 million apiece, finished in 1987. You know, one lady said they're having pedophile parties down there, and that's probably true. You know, and I suspect that. Man, that's probably what's part of this cover-up. Another one of the 4 underground homes may be in this empty lot, which is a half block from my home. That home had the same brick mortar problem that my home had, which was believed to be caused by digging under the home. And it also has a nearby water well. My neighbor has a water well on the other side of my backyard fence. It's possible this is where the young girl was murdered at during the 2010 oil show. Okay, so all I know is that, Angie told me about the young girl murdered at the oil show parties. And then I'm told there's 4 underground $1 million homes here. Okay. So one lady right here, okay, I'm going to show you. Her name is Rhonda Denman Rogers. I said, my home's near an underground facility. She says, yes, I know, a half block away. Okay. But she didn't say it's in your backyard. She didn't say it's 3/4 of a block or a block and a half. She knew exactly where it was. Well, a half block away is an empty lot right out of my cul-de-sac here on Whittle Way. Okay. Is this empty lot? This is where Whittle Way runs into the wall where Home Depot is. Okay. Here's a water well. Okay. So here's a big empty lot. Looks like the perfect place for one of them underground homes. And this home on 3900 Westmont Court had the same brick mortar problem that mine did, where the mortar broke, and it's believed from digging under the home. Okay, so that's why I wonder if there isn't, maybe the oil show parties were also here, or in addition were here. So I don't know if they were going on all 4 of the underground homes. I don't know if the young girl was murdered in this underground home or the one in my backyard. Not everything is known, but there's plenty of evidence here to follow up by legitimate police. The ones, once again, that don't steal evidence, lie on police reports, and destroy the lives of innocent crime victims that are reporting crime to them. Okay, the good police, that's what we're looking for. The good police, not the dirty ones. In August 2013, the remains of a 14 to 21-year-old girl was found outside of Midland. And in October 2019, my friend Angie McGee-Hurley told me about a young girl that was murdered at an oil show party. Obviously, this is the girl that was murdered there, and I wonder if Sheriff Painter was there when it happened, okay? And I'll show you, this is a current Crime Stoppers. I've contacted the Sheriff's Department and the Rangers probably almost 100 times, and starting with this right here, with this Crime Stoppers. The remains of a 14 to 21-year-old girl, 59 to 67 inches tall. Homicide is suspected, found outside of Midland in 2013, and Angie told me about a young girl murdered 2010. She was afraid to report it because high-level police were at the party, and that's the problem right here. That is the police corruption is the problem right here. Citizens should never be murdered for when they go to the police and report crimes like I did. When I'm going, people are breaking into my home, and next thing I know, I'm shot inside my home, and it looks like it was police that tried to murder me. Police under my home. Dickie, Davis, Chatwell, Angel, Hale. We now know they come into my home from an underground trapdoor entrance. Moving on. Another connection to the Midland Sheriff's Department and the underground homes parties was when Empire Private Investigations identified the late Midland Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor as being the second law enforcement officer seen arriving at my home minutes after I was ambushed and shot. Okay, he worked for Sheriff Painter at the time, but he wasn't dispatched, and his name had been illegally admitted from the police report, along with 5 other former secret police. I didn't get that till 7 years later. As seen here, Naylor was shot with a stolen gun in October 2014, but the public was never told that he had a reward offered after being caught on camera in my home. Okay, and so here we go. And they named the highway after him. Okay, he's the hero. He died in the line of duty, but the public was never told that Sheriff Deputy Mike Naylor right here was the second secret police that showed up at my house minutes after I'm ambushed and shot, and he wasn't dispatched. His name wasn't on the police report. I'm going to show you here. And then what's interesting is he gets shot with a stolen gun. Higgins is who he was serving a warrant to, confessed or whatever. But the question's been asked if some of these other police didn't kill Naylor because he was connected to the crimes here, the underground homes, the parties, $1 million underground homes, the parties, and all this, and he was a witness to it. Maybe he was going to testify, and so they killed him, and then we're going to frame Higgins. He confessed so he wouldn't get the death penalty. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to show you that the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde here with Sheriff Painter right here, okay, the hero of Texas. Now, not one other story I'll close this out in is before Painter died, these 2 teenagers were dug up outside of Midland. They were buried 20, I can't remember, 20 foot deep or something. It was a huge hole out on at this tree farm, and they finally found them. And I wondered if they wasn't people in the attic and it wasn't part of the same crime. And nobody, I think they arrested some guy from Dominican Republic, and I've long suspected that was connected. That them kids murders, them two teenagers, maybe they were people that were in the attic or whatever. And I felt like Gary Painter might have knew something about that too. And so, anyways, this Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde sheriff.